On behalf of Michelle and myself, welcome to the White House on this beautiful summer evening. The United States is fortunate to have many allies and partners around the world. Of course, one of our strongest allies and one of our closest friends is the State of Israel. And no individual has done so much over so many years to build our alliance and to bring our two nations closer as the leader that we honor tonight, our friend, Shimon Peres. Among many special guests this evening, we are especially grateful for the presence of Shimon's children, Sefa, Yoni, and Hemi, and their families. Please rise and so we can give you a big round of applause. We have here someone representing the family that has given so much for peace, a voice for peace that carries on with the legacy of her father, Yitzhak Rabin, and that's Dalia. We are grateful to have you here. There she is, over there. Leaders who've helped ensure that the United States is a partner for peace, and in particular, I'm so pleased to see Secretary Madeleine Albright, who is here this evening. And one of the great moral voices of our time and an inspiration to us all, Professor Elie Wiesel. The man, the life that we honor tonight is nothing short of extraordinary. Shimon took on his first assignment in Ben-Gurion's Haganah during the struggle for Israeli independence in 1947, when he was still in his early 20s. He ran for president of Israel and won when he was 83. By the way, I should mention that I just learned that his son-in-law is also his doctor, and I asked for all his tips. Shimon has been serving his nation and strengthening the bonds between our two nations for some 65 years, the entire life of the State of Israel. Ben-Gurion and Meir, Begin and Rabin, these giants of Israel's founding generation now belong to the ages. But tonight we have the rare privilege in history, and that's to be in the presence of a true founding father. Shimon, you have never stopped serving. And in 2 months, we'll join our Israeli friends in marking another milestone, your 89th birthday. Now, I think Shimon would be the first to tell you that in the ups and downs of Israeli politics, he has been counted out more than once. But in him, we see the essence of Israel itself, an indomitable spirit that will not be denied. He's persevered, serving in virtually every position, in dozens of cabinets, some 24 ministerial posts, defense minister, finance minister, foreign minister, 3 times. Try that, Madeleine. And now, the 9th president of Israel. And I think President Clinton would agree with me on this. Shimon Peres is the ultimate comeback kid. And he's still going on Facebook, on YouTube, connecting with young people, looking to new technologies, always facing tomorrow. Recently he was asked, what do you want your legacy to be? And Shimon replied, well, it's too early for me to think about it. Shimon, you earned your place in history long ago, and I know your work is far from done. But tonight is another example of how it's never too early for the rest of us to celebrate your legendary life. Shimon teaches us to never settle for the world as it is. We have a vision for the world as it ought to be, and we have to strive for it. Perhaps Shimon's spirit comes from what he calls the Jewish dissatisfaction gene. A good Jew, he says, can never be satisfied. There is a constant impulse to question, to do even better. So too with nations. We must keep challenging ourselves, keep striving for our ideals, for the future that we know is possible. Shimon knows the necessity of strength. As Ben-Gurion said, an Israel capable of defending herself, which cannot be destroyed, can bring peace nearer. And so he's worked with every American president since John F. Kennedy. That's why I've worked with Prime Minister Netanyahu to ensure that the security cooperation between the United States and Israel is closer and stronger than it has ever been, because the security of the State of Israel is non-negotiable, and the bonds between us are unbreakable. Of course, Shimon also knows that a nation's security depends not just on the strength of its arms, but upon the righteousness of its deeds, its moral compass. He knows, as Scripture teaches, that we must not only seek peace, but we must pursue peace. And so it has been the cause of his life. Peace, security, and dignity for Israelis and Palestinians and all Israel's Arab neighbors. And even in the darkest moments, he's never lost hope in, as he puts it, a Middle East that is not a killing field, but a field of creativity and growth. At times, some have seen his hope and called Shimon Peres a dreamer. And they are right. Just look at his life. The dream of generations, after 2,000 years, to return to Israel, the historic homeland of the Jewish people. Shimon lived it. The dream of independence, a Jewish state of Israel. He helped win it. The dream of an Israel strong enough to defend itself by itself against any threat, backed by an ironclad alliance with the United States of America. He helped build it. The dream of making the desert bloom. He and his wife Sonia were part of the generation that achieved it. The dream of the high-tech Israel we see today. He helped spark it. That historic handshake on the White House lawn. He helped to create it. That awful night in Tel Aviv, when he and Yitzhak sang a song for peace, and the grief that followed. He guided his people through it. The dream of democracy in the Middle East and the hopes of a new generation, including so many young Arabs, he knows we must welcome it and nurture it. So, yes, Shimon Peres, born in a shtetl in what was then Poland, who rose to become president of Israel, he is a dreamer, and rightly so, for he knows what we must never forget. With faith in ourselves and courage in our hearts, no dream is too big, no vision is beyond our reach. And so it falls on each of us, to all of us, to keep searching, to keep striving for that future that we know is possible, for the peace our children deserve. And so it is a high honor for me to bestow this statesman, this warrior for peace, America's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And I'd ask you to please join me in welcoming President Peres to the presentation.
President of the United States of America awards this Presidential Medal of Freedom to Shimon Peres. An ardent advocate for Israel's security and the cause of lasting peace, Shimon Peres has devoted his life to public service. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for the profound role he played in Middle East peace talks that led to the Oslo Accords, and he continues to serve the Israeli people with courage and dignity. Through his unwavering devotion to his country and the cooperation of nations, he has strengthened the unbreakable bonds between Israel and the United States.
Before inviting remarks from President Peres, I'd like to conclude by inviting you all to join me in a toast with the words that Shimon spoke when he accepted the Peace Prize in Oslo. From my earliest youth, I have known that while one is obliged to plan with care the stages of one's journey, one is entitled to dream and keep dreaming of its destination. A man may feel as old as his years, yet as young as his dreams. Shimon, to all our friends here tonight, and to our fellow citizens across America and Israel, may we never lose sight of our destination. Shalom, and may we always be as young as our dreams. L'chaim. Cheers. Before I have one last order of business to attend to. Before I ask our recipient to come to the stage, while I began my remarks, I was not yet sure whether one more or two more guests of honor had arrived. I think it would be entirely appropriate at this point for us also to acknowledge two people who have constantly sought to achieve peace, not only in the Middle East, but all around the world. One of them happens to be traveling a lot these days on my behalf, and I'm extraordinarily grateful to them. Shimon, I know that you're pleased to have two very dear friends to help celebrate this evening. President Bill Clinton. And our outstanding Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. Ladies and gentlemen, President Shimon Peres.
Mr. President, Mrs. Obama, it's so hard to speak after you, my God. You're so moving. Good. Thank you. I really was profound moved by your decision to award me the Presidential Medal of Freedom. To receive it is an honor. To receive it from you, Mr. President, in the presence of my dear family, is a privilege that I shall cherish to the rest of my life. Thank you so much. This is a testament to the historic friendship between our two nations. When I was really young, not like now, the founder of the State of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, called me to work with him for 65 years, inspired by his leadership. I try to gather strength for my country, pursue peace for my people. I learned that public service is a privilege that must be based on moral foundations. I receive this honor today on behalf of the people of Israel. They are the true recipients of this honor. With this moving gesture, you are paying, Mr. President, tribute to generations upon generations of Jews who dreamed of, fought for, a state of their own, a state that would give them a shelter, a state that they could really defend by themselves. Mr. President, you are honoring the pioneers who built homes on barren mountains, on shifting land, fighters who sacrificed their life for their country. On their behalf, I thank you, I thank America for days of concern, for sleepless nights, caring for our safety, caring for our future. Tonight, Mr. President, you kindly invited outstanding personalities whose commitment to Israel is nothing less than heroic. I offer them the eternal gratitude of my people. Present here, for me, it's a very moving presence, is Dalia Rabin, the daughter of my partner, the unforgettable Yitzhak Rabin, who gave his life for peace. Mr. President, you have pledged a lasting friendship for Israel. You stated that Israel's security is sacrosanct for you. So you pledged, so you act, so you are acting as a great leader, as a genuine friend. Thank you again. Dear friends, Israel sincerely admires the United States for being a land of the free, a home of the brave, a nation of generosity. A world without the United States, without the values of the United States, would have been chaotic. Moses began his journey to freedom by demanding, "Let my people go." The prophet Isaiah promised, "Nation will not take up swords against nation." A biblical promise became a grand American reality, first and foremost in human annals. When the Liberty Bell rang in Philadelphia, it resonated throughout the world. A tired world was surprised to witness, contrary to its experience, a great nation becoming greater by giving, not by taking. By making generosity the wisdom of policy and freedom as its heart. Freedom from oppression, from persecution, freedom from violence and evil, freedom from discrimination and ignorance, liberty that does not fear liberty, liberty that doesn't interfere with the liberty of others. You introduced a constitution based on balance, not on force. Liberty is also the soul of the Jewish heritage. We didn't give up our values even when we were facing furnaces and gas chambers. We lived as Jews, we died as Jews, and we rose again as free Jewish people. Israel didn't survive merely to be a passing shadow in history, but as a new Genesis, a startup nation again. We are faced with the worst of humanity, but also experience the best of humanity. We shouldn't forget neither of the two. When we discovered that we were short of land and water, we realized that we had a priceless resource, the courageous, undefeatable human spirit. We invested in knowledge and turned our attention to the ever-growing promise of science. Unlike land and water, science cannot be conquered by armies or won by wars. In fact, science can make wars unnecessary. Science provided Israel with the unexpected economic goals. It enabled us to absorb millions of immigrants. Science enabled us to build an agriculture that is 10 times the normal yield. It enables us to build an effective defense against armies 10 times greater than us. Brave soldiers and sophisticated tools brought us victory and life. But we remain the people of the book. Yes, my friends, Israel is the living proof that democracy means progress, science means growth, literature and arts means enrichment. Israel today is an innovating, pluralistic society where Jews, Christians, and Muslims live together in peace. It is not perfect, but it is an example of what may happen in the future. My friends, we live now and witnessing the departure of one age and the arrival of a new age. The agricultural age lasted for 10,000 years. The scientific age is still fresh. Yet in 50 years, the scientific age has achieved more than the 10,000 years of agriculture. This new age has brought new challenges, new dangers. It generated a global economy, but not a global government. It gave birth to hordes of global terrorism without global control. The dangers today concentrated in Iran. The Iranian people are not our enemies. It is the present leadership that became a threat. It turned Iran into a danger to world peace. It is a leadership that aims to rule the Middle East, spreading terror all over the world. They are trying to build a nuclear bomb. They bring darkness to a world longing for light. We have a solemn responsibility to our own people, to our friends throughout the world, to posterity, that the Iranian threat must be stopped and it cannot be delayed. Mr. President, you worked so hard to build a world coalition to meet this immediate threat. You started rightly with economic sanctions. You made it clear, rightly again, that all options are on the table. Clearly, we support you and your policy. Friends, extremists are using the conflict with the Palestinians to cover their true ambitions. The majority of the people in the Middle East, in my judgment, are tired of war. In many homes, families still mourn the loss of their loved one. I believe that peace with the Palestinians is the most urgent than ever before to come. It is necessary, it is crucial, it is possible. A delay may worsen its chances. I remember that 19 years ago, on the lawn outside this house, President Clinton, dear Bill, initiated the peace process. Thank you very much. Since then, Israelis and Palestinians have come a long way together, but still, hard work remains ahead. Israel and the Palestinians are, in my judgment, ripe today to restart the peace process. A firm basis already exists, a solution of two national states, a Jewish state, Israel, and Arab state, Palestine. The Palestinians are our closest neighbors. I believe they may become our closest friends. It's not impossible. Peace with the Palestinians will open ports of peace all around the Mediterranean. The duty of leaders is to pursue freedom ceaselessly, even in the face of hostility, in the face of doubt and disappointment. Just imagine what could be. Now a young Arab generation has opened its eyes and stood up against oppression, poverty, and corruption. They seek freedom. They need freedom. They understand that freedom begins at home. I pray for their success. I believe that their success may become the success of all of us. Mr. President, my vision is in Israel living in full, genuine peace, joining with all the people in the Middle East, former enemies, new friends alike. Jerusalem becoming the capital of peace. An Israel that is a scientific center, open to all, serving all without discrimination. A green Israel in an increasingly green Middle East. My vision is an Israel whose normal call is old as the 10 Commandments tablets, and whose imagination is new as the digital tablets as well. Together, our old and modern vision can help bring Tikkun Olam, as the President say, a better world. It will take a long time before we should achieve it and become satisfied, as we have said. I believe that in the coming decade, Israel will be a center of the latest development in brain research. As the secrets of human brain are being revealed, people may improve their capacity to choose between right and wrong. By the way, I'm also extremely optimistic about the United States of America. You are going to be the real greatest source of energy in our time. You are introducing a new industry, which is not mass production, but individual production. It's a new revolution. And you put again science on top of your agenda. These are three great promises. I believe in the coming decade, Israel will be also a center of the latest developments in brain research. As the secret of human brain are revealed, people may improve their capacity to choose between right and wrong. In the absence of a global government, self-government can contribute to world peace. Dear friends, my greatest hope is that a dawn will rise when every man and woman, Israeli or Palestinian, Syrian or Lebanese, young people wherever they are, will wake up in the morning and be able to say to themselves, I am free to be free. Amen.